Welcome to Courageous Conviction. Remember that Jeff and I record each Saturday 5 episodes. So please hit the like button, subscribe so you catch all 5 episodes. We usually start out with one theme or topic. We have to go down a lot of rabbit holes to really understand it. Some things are more sensitive than others right now, what's going on in the world. So hit the like button, subscribe, and let's jump into this video.
That's the easy way out, Jeff. That's why, because they haven't done their own research. And people who think that way generally are people who maintain themselves, I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it bluntly, maintain themselves in ignorance. You know, it's just, that's ignorant to me. There's so many, look, I heard these 2 black guys, they're great. They have the podcast, and these guys they're conservative guys. And they were saying something there. Huh?
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. But, they were talking there today, like, I don't even gonna say anything because I want people to take this as a racial comment at all. But they're saying, look, people out there just stupid. I'm quoting them. I'm going from them right now. He said they're just stupid. So they're ignorant. He said, how can you tell me in the day of the internet? Now, you know, they're acknowledging the fact that Google and so forth is starting to censor, and so getting true information now is going to be difficult. But it's like all this time we've had the internet, and certain cultures haven't grown. They just still maintain an ignorance. He said, that's just stupidity. That's laziness. That's because they don't want to, you know, and we're catering to this right now. And he said, come on, we're part of one of these cultures. And look at us, you know, we're doing fine because we wanted to do something different. We made the efforts. We educate ourselves. We applied that education, you know, we're living the principle of work. And that's what we're trying to summarize. And I think that goes for all of us. I don't care what race or creed you are. I know a lot of white people out there that are just white. Well, they have the reference white trash. Nobody's trash in the eyes of our Lord, right? I'm just saying that people that are not fulfilling their measures, nor are they even trying to. And I have a son right now behind me who decided he's going to have a fit as I'm recording here. Anyway, yeah, it's kind of rough in these small homes, you know, getting away from my little studio. And
my son there, you know, earlier was yelling for me to go wipe him. I'm like, you know, I don't know if you even caught him yet. That was going on for a while, and finally, I'm like, okay, I gotta go.
I couldn't hear it. So I don't know if you could hear my son crying just now as he walked by the door. I got the door closed, but he obviously woke up not happy, and he's out there expressing that unhappiness. He's 3, right?
Yeah.
And we're going through some things with him right now. He's having a tough time. His eyes and his shoulders, he's just kind of blinking a lot. And he's just doing this kind of stuff. I don't know if it's a tick, what it's gone, you know, something's up with him. Anyway, to conclude this, you know, we need to become educated. Now, do people always have the time to read and things of that nature? Well, no. A lot of times we're so busy right now trying to keep up with just paying the bills because of inflation and different politics that are affecting our life. This is why we need to understand the politics, even in the church as church members, because we need to make those decisions, right? For our families, we got to live in the world still today. We're not in Zion yet. You know, we're in the stakes of Zion, which is not the formation of that tent yet. We're not there. We're still outside of that. And people are going to remain outside of that. Are going to have to remain with the people around them that think very different than them and aren't of one mind, right? The Constitution brings us back, and this is my conclusion here, Jeff. Constitution is what constitutes one mind. That's the mindset. That's the filter of the tent of Zion. And as you said, Brigham confirmed, it's going to be Muslim. He said even our Muslim brothers and sisters, even other religions will most probably all exist under the same tent of Zion, but they're going to pass the test of the Constitution. So they're going to understand compassion and justice and how that balance works out and personal responsibility. What's coming across the board right now, Jeff, is not taking personal responsibilities, right? And that's the problem. How do you assimilate that, right? So
Christianity started this nation, you know. I think that when we realized that Christianity was very much a part of the founding side of this nation. You know, it's the reason that the Lamanites lost, the American Indians lost their land. That was prophesied about as well. And, you know, things that will be inclusive, that will allow the American Indians, that will allow the Hispanics that are coming up over the border, and allow the earlier, you know, immigrants, you know, from Europeans, you know, that came over here before that, not before the Native Americans, but before a lot of the ones that are coming up over the southern border. I think the thing is that it has to be understood, whether you're Muslim or not, or a Christian, that this country was founded upon Christianity, the country, the United States of America. And, and those Christian values allow for other religions so that people can practice their faith. And that's the beauty of it all. But it's not going to change that core root, value that we have and that we can all share. And like what you're saying, the tents of Zion, we can be side by side with Muslim brothers or other Christians or, others who are of a different faith, Judaism, and still have the same core values. And we know what that leads to down the road as well. People will, Jesus Christ will come eventually and everybody will be one-minded.
Well, there is a common set of core values in all major all major religions. I'm sorry, right. and our founding fathers knew that. And when they were talking about the education system, when there's this debate of whether education system should be run by the government or not, they fully all were in agreement in the end that the education system should not be run by the government; it should be run by local families, because the government can take the education system to implement an agenda that they want into it. Right,
which is what they're doing now.
What they're doing now, right? And so, well, I was going to give you some support on what you're saying there, and I lost my train of thought too. There, go ahead and finish.
No, you did support, and I feel that I think that's a good closing part of this conversation is that the diversity of people is a good thing. The original part of our Constitution that was Christian based allows for other religions, not only allows it to happen, but, invites them in because we believe that assimilation starts there, but maintaining the justice, the core values, having, the ability to practice whatever religion we want to practice, that's right. We're talking about good religion.
Well, and that's what I was going to say was the founding fathers came up with they wrote a list, and it's actually, if you want to read another book that's called The 5,000-Year Leap, I suggest to everybody out there read that book. It's going to explain to you exactly how the Constitution was inspired, and it's an inspired document. What it's done for the world since it's been written and since it's been here in the U.S., not just in the church, but what's done for the world, right? And in that, he's going to explain to the founding fathers the core principles that are amongst all major religions that were to be taught in the schools and were taught early on in the schools, right? And the reason to not have government take over the schools that are run by local families was that they would maintain those principles, and the government would probably do away with those principles one day if they became tyrannical or tried to overthrow the Constitution, right?
Which is what they're doing.
What's what we're doing. And Elder Christofferson actually woke my stake president up when he was traveling with a bunch of other church leaders, the same churches, same religion. We're talking about major religions, Catholicism, Islam, etc. Right? They were traveling together for a few years. They traveled trying to wake the people up to take political responsibilities in their local schools and local government, right? Yeah. And then they taught that the education system was corrupt. Now, when I was explaining this to my stake president, he didn't believe me. So a year after studying together, remember, I had this blessing, this opportunity to study every Tuesday from 8 in the morning till 1 or 2 in the afternoon with my stake president. And we just did these deep dives, right? And I saw revelation for the stake come through him. He needed to understand certain things. He knew there was something out there. In the first 6 months or year, we were studying together. No, it was probably about the first 6 months we started studying. Actually, it wasn't even organized yet. We were just studying together, and he was having a hard time getting away from socialism in law consecration to be Marxist-based to actually not being and having private property, et cetera. And so we would study together, and as he started realizing things, he gets invited to this talk in Argentina with Elder Christofferson, and a conference rather, comes home and says, knocks on my door, early in the morning, next day, he gets home that night. Next morning, he's at my door in my office. He's knocking on. He says, he walks up to my books in my library and says, I want you to teach me everything that's in those books in English. I need to understand this. Elder Christofferson said, we all need to get involved in politics. And then the whole education system in the world is corrupted and is moving our youth away from Christ. And we need to take a stand. And you know what? You don't hear him say that on the pulpit right now, do you? But he just said that a couple of years ago in Argentina. That didn't change. Nothing changed. What's changing is because we're global. And this is, I'll conclude finally I'll just shut my mouth on this. Because we can go forever at these things, Jeff. Crazy. And we're talking with you. It's great because you and I, we have different views on these things. You're generally a little more softer than I am on it, on some of these topics. And yet we can march the same direction because we can talk reasonably and we have a basis in which we can come to understanding. And maybe we don't agree right now on something. You know, you've educated me to help understand some things that, okay, I didn't quite see it that way. And it's broadened my understanding of it, right? Yeah, I think vice versa, you know. But before we're talking about immigration, I was all like, pick them up and ship them out. You're like, no, don't go there with that. And then all of a sudden now you're seeing things that, wait a minute, I guess we do have to apply a little bit of justice here and too, right? So that's how we work things out.
But you were also willing to see that there's a portion of those immigrants that are beneficial, that are important, and probably prophesied about, because you know, I'm looking at that and going, there's something good that's coming out of this. You know, we see the bad, but there's something good there, and there's a group of people within that, you know, massive group that are going to be crucial in helping us lock arms and change America back to what, you know, it needed to be, which is
we need to have a system to identify that, vet out the bad and to identify that. And that's what I'm going to do now, you know. And I guess we were going to go down and go up to the Darien Gap. And, you know, recently there's been others that have done it now. And so there's no reason for me to spend that money on going up to the Darien Gap to show something that's already been shown and put ourselves at risk there. I will take a little bit of risk, and I'm going to go down and get in with the migrants and show exactly why they're coming. And then when we see exactly why they're coming and the results of them coming, because I'm going to go to other countries where they've already been and migrating, and now the door's open, they can come here, right?
Yeah.
And so what I want to do is take that aspect of, okay, why are they coming? Then we can figure out how we deal with it, right? Because they're not all coming for what we're being told in the media. Like you said, maybe 20%. And I'm saying maybe 20%, right?
Well, and we want to hear and be able to gauge that. So if you're talking to people that, you know, maybe you'll, and whoever's going to be talking to you, you're going to be able to come up with those questions that will help gather that information and give us some insight as to who's coming over. I mean, are they all bad? Or is it like what I'm saying, that a portion of them are good?
No, you're going to find a portion are good. I agree 100% with that. I just by me talking on the phone and so forth, you know, I already know there's a portion that are good. However, in that portion that's good, what is their cultural mindset? Like I said, anti-gun, you know, pro-government healthcare, right? Very much social.
Those people will change once they start seeing practicality. You know, when people haven't lived a practical life and they've never had to defend themselves, they think they don't need nothing. You know, but you know, I can count on at least one hand several times where I've been in a situation where I needed protection. And looking back in retrospect, had I not acted in those situations, you know, those outcomes would have been very painful and traumatic. You know, it was a lot better to be armed and be ready and to act and to be able to act. And it's going to have to be that way now, because you have to be able to exact justice and you have to be able to defend yourself. Otherwise, you know.
Well, Jeff, just look what happened last week in Texas. A woman walks into a church and just starts shooting.
Started shooting people. But they shot her right away.
Well, because you had 2 off-duty cops over there, right?
They were armed.
And we talked about that too. Do we take our arm to church? Yeah, I'm taking my pistol to church. I'm so sorry.
Well, there's a lot of people that, you know, I talked to a woman in the church who's Relief Society president, and she's packing. I'm like, well, what about, you know, the leadership coming out and saying that it's better not to bring a firearm to church, and it was at least a very strong suggestion, you know. So that's when I stopped. You know, I was carrying a firearm when I would go to early morning seminary because we had some riffraff that, you know, that had slipped through the window one time and was sleeping in one of the rooms, and you know, and we had to call the cops to get him out. You know, so you never know what somebody's going to try to do when you got young kids there, and you know, but. So after that, you know, after the church said no more firearms, I just, you know, stopped doing that.
Well, you know what I take? I don't take actual pistol. I take a pistol that shoots projectiles that are with like a gas, right? A pepper spray, right? That's what I have. So then because here's the thing too, it's not just about us, because people can say, well, you got to be bigger than you, because if you shoot somebody, because the LDS church is always LDS church, because it is the restored church of God, it's always being targeted, right? And people can say, well, the Catholic Church gets targeted too, and I'm not, and rightfully
Not
so.
like us.
But not like the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. There's a different target there, and it's always been a target since inception. It's always been a way to target. So here's what people can argue: say, well, you're just thinking about yourself and your personal life and your family. You're not thinking about the Lord and His church, because if you shoot somebody in church, that's going to get blown up that this person was murdered in the LDS church because they're racist and discriminatory, right?
Murdered.
Even though they pulled out a gun and started shooting people,
Right.
They got shot by the people. There'll be something they can use against the church, and they will try that.
When we got a society that's willing to call that murder when it's not, where clearly it's self-defense, and that there's a difference, So you're not murdering somebody because, not even Laban in the Book of Mormon was murdering Laban.
Well, but you have some people now preaching that, even at BYU.
Because they can't handle it. But
it's because the truth is not being handled exactly right. They don't want to take the responsibility to the truth and own up to that truth. And then we have to take a responsibility. All of us do. It's that's a response to our abilities, right? If we're not taking responsibility, then you're saying I don't have abilities, so then I'm nothing more than an animal. I just live and I just ring the bell, I salivate, and I get my food, right? That we are more than Pavlov's law. We're more than that, right? We're much more than that. We are sons and daughters of a God, and we have that in us. And the capacity through the atonement to overcome anything is within our grasp. Though it may not seem like it, we may, like your book talks about, the addictions. It may seem like you're in peril. You can never climb out of it. You can always climb out of it if you want it bad enough. You're able, and you're willing to take upon yourself responsibility.
Yep. We can close on that note.
Let's close on that note. Hey, Courageous Conviction, please comment down below. We want to hear your comments. Been really busy. I myself have not this last week had a chance to respond to a lot of comments, and I'm going to try to more. I'm preparing to go down to Latin America in the next 30 days. Right. Again, I'm not going to go up into this really dangerous area, because people just have done it fairly recently, and it's out there on YouTube now. If you want to see what it's like, it's there. And they did get, and the lowest I saw was 20,000 views, like Tim Cass was saying, right? Tim Pool was saying, but and that's not the purpose of this. Obviously, we want to grow the channel because we want to get this out there. The purpose of this is trying to bring you the truth, right? Yeah. So what we're going to do is a little bit different spin and figure out who's coming. And I'm going to interview both sides. I'm already lining things up now, talking to attorneys in Costa Rica. I'm going to go Costa Rica and Ecuador. Ecuador is the melting pot where they're all coming through. I actually know where they're coming up from to get into Ecuador. If they're coming in illegally, that part's not being covered. I've discovered that because of all my time in the jungle, right? And so I'm going to go back down there, come up and show you how easy it is to get to those borders. You can just walk through them. There's one person sometimes at these borders, and they're not even they're just in some back office somewhere, not even close to where the border crossing is. I'm going to show this stuff, show how CCP members, the Chinese Communist Party, are sending people here. How do they get into Ecuador to come up through this Darien Gap in the first place, right? And what we're hoping to do, if we can pull this off, I don't want to say anything anymore because I just feel like somebody could run out there before we get it done, right, and do it. But we're going to try to show some of the corruption of how they are able to get through the borders with no documentation, right?
Mm-hmm. That'd be big. That'd be great.
Yeah. Now, I would like to do it at U.S.
I've been wanting to go down to the U.S. to the border and interview people here coming up over our southern border that we're so close to, and I might just have to do that in the next. Dude,
I think you should do that. I'd like to go down there too, and maybe I'll finish my trip coming back. I'll stop over there because I've been wanting to come down there with you anyway. So maybe we can kind of meet up for a few days before I come back here. I'm going to be on a budget, and my team's down there selling off crypto to fund all this. So thank you to cryptocurrency for all this, because that's how we're going to be able to do it, because that's profits we've made. And, we're not taking any capital out. We're able to just come from profits. And Jeff, I would like to talk next week or in a couple weeks on this whole idea of a CDBC, a central bank digital currency. How is that going to affect us as members of the church and the U.S. Constitution, right? And freedoms. And we can use the Chinese model, talk about that, because I think that's something the members of the church need to understand. And I did a video on convenience and how convenience is going to be the killer of freedom, because we're just going to give it up because it's convenient. We'll give up our freedoms for convenience, and we'll just say we don't need that anymore. We got to be careful of that, because we're already seeing that in the church.
We'll be back into bartering, and
and I think what's going to happen is, like I talked to my mom the other day, she said, I'm worried because what if electricity goes out and it's out for a few days? Or what if we have a cyber attack, which is very, very possible, right? We're very vulnerable for cyber attack. We're not ready for it here. We have no real defense. And so what do we do to provide, to buy food if we have a cyber attack and we're down for a couple of months? Well, you better have your food storage for one. And two, you better have some type of a currency that the Constitution supports, right? Because we know the prophecy in Zion, it won't be the dollar. It won't be the US dollar. And if I don't know if you saw the interview with Tucker and Putin, I sent that to you. But, it was interesting because Putin wouldn't elaborate anything. It was almost as if he got a phone call saying, don't open up to Tucker or else, right? That was what it was like, because he did not want to open up at all. And I thought he would on certain things, but he did open up enough to talk about how he is supporting a one world government. And if we're one world, it's easier to maintain the people, to control viruses, et cetera, et cetera. So he is on page with that. Even though he jumped off ship with the World Economic Forum, the BRICS nations is forming their own type of a government now, right? So there's things that we talk about as members of the church, and how do we deal with that going forward, and how does that affect us, right? What should we stand for?
Well, we know what that is.
Yeah, we know what that is. So we're going to talk more about that. But please, subscribe, help us out, get this out to your friends. We want to grow this channel. We're going to go down, spend some money on our own to go down and do some investigations and things. And, we're not in this to try to get wealthy. Yeah. I would like to be able to do this full time so I can do more investigative reporting. And so we could, get enough income coming in. We'll be working on a website too, Jeff, down there for our Book of Mormon tours when I go down to Ecuador. And we'll be working on the website. I mean, there's a guy there that's going to be building it for us. And so we'll do a little bit of footage too. We're going to go down to the Cuevas de Tajos, where they found the gold plates and they disappeared, right? So we're going to go down and talk to the natives a little bit. That's going to be one of our tours there in Ecuador.
Yeah, somebody commented on that. The one comment I just saw on that was from David Hawley, and I'm like, I don't know where he was from. Maybe a past relative there that I don't know about, but yeah, he did comment on that video you put out about the gold plates. Yeah, and we're gonna get a lot of negative back on this too, right? Because because they don't have that anymore. You can't see them anymore. They got the last of them from this Catholic father. Yeah, the whole likely story kind of thing,
Yeah, right. And the government took the rest of them. And I tell you, from my experience, Jeff, and my studies the last 25 years, because I'm an amateur anthropologist, right? I'm not a professional, only because I didn't go to school and get a degree in it. But I've probably studied over 300 sites and throughout the world, most of those being in the Americas, right? And starting here. And so, the conclusions we're going to give are conclusions I found from my studies, what Joseph has said, et cetera. So we're going to go down this time. We're going to do a little bit different. And so we're gearing up for that now. I had a surgery I was supposed to be in on Thursday. Fortunately and unfortunately, because I wasn't sure what the recovery time is going to be, because it's double hernia surgery. I have 2 hernias. And so, it might have put me out for a month. I couldn't afford that right now. And I need to get down there. If I was going to go down there trying to cart equipment around, I might rip it again. So beautifully thing, they told me, if you start to get sick or if you get headaches, you got to let us know. We got to postpone it. My wife got COVID that week and my body was trying to fight it off. And so I just let them know, look, I'm having headaches. I got body aches. They said, well, we're putting it off until April. Well, then I got to call them back and say, actually, I'm not going to be in country in April. Right. So we're going to go down and we're going to grab this stuff, Jeff, to try to bring truth and light so we can have better understandings. And so we'll work on the website. At the same time, we're going to be working on a store that's going to go with that website, but it's also going to be a store where people will have these books and so forth that Jeff and I are referring to, including Jeff's book there too as well. Kind of link through it. There it is, Revving the Soul. And that link will be down below. It's been on all of our videos. If you want to get this book, I suggest it's a read you can do in one day. And my wife really enjoyed this read. I haven't finished it yet because I've been so busy, I'll be honest with you. But what I've read so far, I've enjoyed, and I'm going to sit down and read because finally this week I'm taking some time off to do that, and I'll be writing out the questions and the scripts for the interviews, as well as laying out the plan of action, how we're going to go. I already got the team selected. I met with my team in Ecuador on Thursday, last week. And so we have that dialed in. So we'll be heading down to do that in the next month. So we'll talk about that as we go along here. Again, we're going to take a little bit different spin. We're going to just try to show who's coming and the results of that migration when it's not integrated, and what the consequences, what it brings, both pro and con, right? And then that you make the decisions. We'll teach you the principles. You make the choices.
Right. That's a great note to close on.
Courageous conviction. We'll see you next Saturday.
All right.